This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Again, as we prepare for Parshas Vayeira, Haba Aleinu L'Tova, I want to welcome all of the viewers on TorahAnytime, everyone listening on J-Root Radio, and we want to welcome all the great Talmidei Chachamim here in the Kollel in Young Israel of Kew Garden Hills, New York. We want to speak about a very interesting subject. This is a subject that is of great discussion in the Olam HaChasidus, and there's a question of what basis does it have. The Gemara says in Masechta Sukkah, "V'ha'amar Abaye." Abaye said, "Leipachos alma." The world never has less mitlasin v'shita tzadike than 36 tzadikim demekable ape shchina b'chol yom that receive the shchina every day. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Ashrei kol choichei loi." Fortunate are those who hope to him. Loi b'gematria tlasin v'shita havu. Lo has a numerical value of 36. So there's a concept of 36 tzadikim. The world will never be without 36 tzadikim. You know, in the Olam HaChasidus, there's some kind of legend that there are these 36 secret, hidden tzadikim, Lamed Vavniks, and this was always a point of controversy. You know, who are these Lamed Vavniks? You know, they may live in a forest, and they don't seem to be big Talmidei Chachamim, but they seem to be very righteous, maybe, and, you know, there's a concept of the Tehillim Zagars. What's a Tehillim Zagar? It could be an Am Haaretz, you cannot know anything, but you're righteous, you know, and you're well-meaning and you're kind to others, but maybe your level of scholarship is not where you excel. And in the Olam HaYeshivos, they always rejected such a notion. There's no such thing as a Tehillim Zagar. There's no such thing as a Tzaddik, Ein Bor Yirei Chet. You could say, if you say Tehillim and you don't know Torah, that's not a Tzaddik. You can't be a Tzaddik if you're unlearned.
But he's still righteous.
You can't be righteous unless you have Yediyah. Meaning,
in the old days, you had
yeah, you had people who said Tehillim
all day long, and
yeah, they might be nice people, but to call them tzaddikim, you can't call them tzaddikim. To be a tzaddik, you have to know how to observe the law. If you don't know the details, you can't observe properly. With all the, you know, anyway, be it as that could be, but anyway, the Gemara says there are 36 tzaddikim. Where is the source? What is the makar for this concept of 36 tzaddikim? It's a Gemara, but leka midi deloy ramiza ba'iraisa. There's nothing that is not alluded to in the Torah. What is the concept of the 36 tzaddikim? So there are certain ramazim we have on the pasuk Eila Toldois Noach, the Moshav Zakenim. The Moshav Zakenim is one of the Balei HaTosfos. He says the word Eila is gematria 36. This is a reference to the 36 tzaddikim that are oimed b'chol dar v'dar. Other ramazim he says halichos oilam loi, srafim oimdim ima'al loi. Okay, fine. There's a medrash in Bereshis Rabbah. It's called Medrash Bereshis Rabbasi. When in Parshas Vayetze, when Yaakov Avinu makes the Adorim, the flax, Vayashas loy Adorim levadoi. So the Medrash says, Mahu loy, Elu lamed vav tzadikim shehein b'chol dar, shehein ho'ilam chasamehem. Every generation has 36 tzadikim, as the Gemara says in Sukkah Mem Hey Amud Beis. Another remez, the Reikeach in Shir Hashirim on the pasuk, Doidi li v'ani loi. So Doidi li v'achar kach v'ani loi. What does this refer to? V'ani loi, ani is gematria 60. Loi are the 36 tzaddikim in every generation. Anyway, the Magal Mukoi says further, there are 36 tzaddikim in Eretz Yisrael and 36 tzaddikim in Chutz La'aretz. The remez is Vayikach lo is called Eila. Eila refers to 36, and Abraham's midah was Chesed. Chesed is 72, and he split it in the middle, half in Eretz Yisrael and half in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, interesting. By the way, just as an aside, if you look at number 6, the Gemara, it should say Chulen, Daf Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph. There aren't 92 blad in Masechta Nida. The Gemara Nida, Gemara Chulen darshans a pasuk in Hosea, V'chein hu oimer tzrar hakesef lakach biyadai choimer sa'irim v'lesech sa'irim. Choimer is 30 sa, lesech is 15. Elu memheit tzadikim. These are the 45 tzadikim sheha'olam miskayim bahem, that the world exists on. And I don't know, are 30 here and 15 in Eretz Yisrael, or 30 in Eretz Yisrael and 15 here? Therefore, when it says v'yekcha shloishim hakesef, the 30 are in Eretz Yisrael. So it's somewhat of a stira. Are there 36 tzadikim? Are there 45 tzadikim? Marv Rabbi say, what's this got to do with the price of tea in China? Can I borrow your pen for a minute? What does this have to do with anything?
So Abraham was asking for 50.
In this week's Parsha, we have a major negotiation between the Ribbon Shalom and between Avraham Avinu and Hashem. And that's what the focus of today's Shiur is going to be about. Picking up on some of the details of this negotiation. If you want to learn the art of negotiation, if you want to know why are Jews such good negotiators, Masei Avos Siman Labanim. Avraham Avinu, he struck a hard bargain. He started with 50 and he negotiated down to 10. Let's look carefully at the words here.
The end result didn't work anyway, so.
Ulai yesh chamishim tzadikim b'soichayir. Maybe there are 50 tzadikim in the city.
What did Avraham mean by the word tzadikim?
Okay, we'll see. He didn't mean Tehillim Zagars. He meant real tzadikim. He meant, what? A tzaddik is a tzaddik. Ulai. Well, we'll have to see. Maybe there are 50 tzadikim in the city. Ha'af tispeh. V'loi sisa la'makayim. Are you going to destroy and not carry the place? Leman chamishim hatzadikim asher bekirba? So Avraham Avinu asks that the Ribbon Shalom be tisa, carry the city. Chalila l'cha me'ases k'davar hazeh. Heaven forbid, God. L'ham is tzadik im rasha. V'hayach hatzadik harasha. Chalila lach. You're not going to do mishpat. Vayeira Hashem im emtza v'stoim. Listen carefully. If I find in Sidaim chamishim tzadikim b'soichayir, v'nasasi l'chol hamakim b'aburam, I'll carry the place. So Hashem says, if I find in Sidaim 50 tzadikim, I'll carry the place. Vayan Avraham, vayomer. Avraham spoke up and he said, Hinei no hayalti ledaber ladoini. I've only begun to speak. V'anochi afar ve'efram, dust and ashes. Now here Avraham Avinu is using a whole hakdama here. He is sort of giving some kind of, before he speaks, he's giving a disclaimer. He said, who am I to be able to ask for this? No, I'm nothing. Maybe ulayachsur and chamishim hatzadik and chamisha, hasashchis b'chamisha is kol ha'ir. Now this time Abraham is asking, not that Hashem be tisa, but rather, are you going to destroy? And Hashem said, you know what? Lo yashchis, I won't destroy for 45. Very interesting. The first request, Avraham Avinu asks Hashem, carry the city. And Hashem says, yes, if I find 50, I'll carry the city. Then Abraham says, don't destroy the city for 45. And Hashem says, I won't destroy the city. That's the first. Now the pasuk says, Vayosef oid. He spoke again. What do you mean he spoke again? This is the third time he was speaking. The second time it doesn't say Vayosef oid. No, now the third time it says Vayosef oid. Vayomer ulai yimatzon shamar ba'am. Maybe there'll be 40. Meaning, if you find 40, Vayomer loy eseh, I won't do. Now this time Hashem doesn't say, if I find. He says, I won't do. Do. Ba'avor ha'arba'im. because of the 40. He doesn't say lo yashchis. He says that lo yasa. Vayomer al no yichad adoinoi v'adabeira ula yimatzon sham shloishim. Vayomer lo yasa. I won't do him emsa sham shloishim. So now, by 50 it's tisa, and it's and by 45 it's what? Tashchis. And by 40 it's loy esa. Now by 40 it's not an emsa. It's just ba'avor. By 30 it's emsa. Now but listen, by 30 when he goes down from 40 to 30, he says don't get angry. This is the first time Avram tells God, don't get angry. Why is this the first occasion that Hashem's saying don't get angry, that Avram is saying don't get angry? He didn't say don't get angry when he went down from 50 to 45 or from 45 to 40. Why is he saying don't get angry when he's going down from 40 to 30? And Hashem says, Lo yasa.
Third time he's asking, they're losing now. Yeah, that's right.
No yicha. This is the fourth request. Why is he saying don't get angry? Then, right, he says I'll know yichar. And Hashem says, fine, I won't do if I find 30. Then he says, Hinei no hayalti l'daber adoinai. Ula yimatzon sham esrem. Yemaloi ashchis. Okay, I won't destroy for 20. Now again he says, Vayeira al no yichar, don't get angry at me this time. So 2 times Abraham says don't get angry. When he goes down from 40 to 30, and when he goes down from 20 to 10. Sometimes he says tisa, sometimes it's tashchis. Comes Rav David Cohen, who is the Rav in Gvul Yavitz in Flatbush, and he says all of these diukim are very critical and very important, and they sort of open up for us a new vista of understanding the negotiations of Abraham and the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that is, whenever you negotiate, you always got to set the price. And whenever you move off the price, so now you're being very bold and you're being very courageous, that would call for a disclaimer, please don't get angry at me. So basically what we're going to see is Avram Avinu has 3 levels of requests. Each time he's changing the set price. Let's explain. When it comes to 50, he says if you find in Sodom 50 tzadikim, so Hashem says, if I find in Sodom 50 tzadikim, then I'll bear the whole place. Then Avram says, Amafar va'efer, maybe there are 5, don't destroy for 45. And Hashem says, I won't destroy if I find 45. Then Avram Avinu says, maybe you'll find 40. And Hashem says, you know what, I'll carry for 40. Then Avram says, don't get angry now. Maybe you'll find 30. And Hashem says, you know what, I'll carry it for 30. And he says, you know what, I won't destroy for 20. And then he says again, don't get angry, maybe you'll find 10. Marver Aboisai says Rav David Cohen, Nira, look at number 9, where after all of these diukim, Nira Lavar HaSeder Shal Bakashas Avram Avinu Lahatsalas Sodom Hamedaktek Yira, one who looks carefully will see, Sheba Avor Chamishim Tzadikim, that for 50 Tzadikim, Bikesh Linasias Chet, he asked that the sin be carried. For 40 and 30,
Do.
What right? So for 50, he's asking for Nasias Chet. For 40 and 30, Hashem said, I won't do. Right? Look carefully. By 50, Hashem says, Lo tisa. By 40, Lo yasa. By 30, Lo yasa. By 45, it's what? Tashchis. By 20, it's tashchis. Why? Also by 40, 20 and 10, it says ba'avor. By 40 it says what? Look carefully. By 40 it says Lo Esa Ba'avur. By 20 it's Ba'avur. By 10 it's Ba'avur. What is the meaning of all of this? Also, by 45, Avram Avinu says, V'anoichi afar va'efer. And it says, Vayosef only by 40. Well, it says, Reb David Cohen in the Sefer, Avraham, Yogel, Yitzchak, Iranian, in number 10, says quite an interesting thing. Im nizboinein b'davar, if you contemplate this, nira lefanenu, it would seem, shalosh maracha shabakashas. There are 3 levels of requests over here. Hamaracha harishayna, the first request, he bas shalosh bakashas harishaynas. The first 3. 50, 45, and 40. In 50, 45, and 40, Avram Avinu basically what he's doing is he's establishing the price. L'kbaya hamachir, keneged hadavar hanimkar. Basically, he's establishing the price for the item being sold. Meaning, shakol achaz ba levayer, kama tzadikim. Basically, what Avram Avinu wants to know is, God, how much is this going to cost me? How many tzadikim do I need to produce? And what type of tzadikim do I need to pay in order to save the city? So that's what Avram Avinu is doing. Now, there's a difference between ba'avur and emsa. What's the difference? If Avram Avinu says, maybe there are 50 tzadikim, and Hashem says, if I find 50, what does it mean God has to find them? Well, God has to look? That must mean we're talking about tzadikim who are not perfect tzadikim. And they need an evaluation and they need an estimation because there are 2 kinds of tzadikim. There are tzadikim who their righteousness is overt and obvious and clear, and you take one look at them and they're an obvious tzaddik. We wouldn't need to use the word ememtza. But a tzaddik who's like, 58-42, we have to look at his account, we have to cheshbon zich, what's going on with him, and then we could say, you know what, we find that the guy's a tzaddik. So Hashem says like this, if I find 50 tzaddikim, I'm going to save the whole city. What kind of tzaddikim are we talking about? Obviously, when we're dealing with 50 tzaddikim, and it says, if I find, we're talking about tzaddikim she'enam gemurim. Non-obvious and overt tzaddikim. So therefore, the Kenira, Shabito Yememtza, Klapei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba Loimar, Shahat tzaddikim hei meyoisei sog, Shatzichim hachra aleim. Obviously, we're talking about tzaddikim that need an evaluation. Lifsoik aleim shem tzaddikim, to paskin that they're tzaddikim, meaning they're not obvious tzaddikim. V'nimtza, 50 tzaddikim that are not gemurim would save the entire city, that Hashem would carry the cities. Then Avram Avinu says, okay, fine. So now I got one price, right? Because there are different prices. There's good merchandise, there's mediocre merchandise, there's bad merchandise. There also, if I pay with check, if I pay with cash, pay with credit card, sometimes, like gasoline, there are different prices. Sometimes, you could work things out. If you pay cash, it could cost less than if you pay by another means. Anyway, Avram Avinu first determines that to save the entire city of Sodom, that they're not touched, that Hashem is going to carry the cities of Sodom, we need to find 50 mediocre tzaddikim.
But where did he come up with the number 50?
That's the starting point, 10 for each city.
Why did he start with 100?
He bargains low. So, then the Rebbe, yeah.
I want to point out first
What?
of all, we just live in a second for the hell.
Yeah.
Mankind. Why would a tzaddik have a how to live in such a city? I mean, what's the wrong thing? A tzaddik lives in a place like this. No tzaddik will live there. There's not 50 of them. Number one. Second, why
Their wife talked them into it, maybe.
Why is Hashem leading him on? Hashem knows there's nothing there. There's nothing in 10. Why are you leading him on? Why are you letting him talk?
Okay. Good question. Nothing to do with this year. Okay. There's not.
I'm asking, why is Hashem leading him on? It's nice to show up from.
Maybe a different time. We'll talk about it a different time. Rabbi say. Then Avram Avinu wants to know. Okay, I got the price. It's going to cost me 50 mediocre tzaddikim to save all 5 cities. What about Rivan Sham if you don't save them entirely? What if you just don't destroy them, but you bring Yisurim on them? Ulai Yachsarun. Right? Avram says, maybe I'm going to be missing 5. If let's say instead of 50 we have 45, could you give me this at least? I know you're not going to be able to carry the city, but don't destroy the city. Meaning, I know your price. Your price is 50. I know the price. I'm not negotiating the price right now. You told me that if I produce 50, that you're going to carry, meaning you're not going to touch the cities. But what if they're 45? Could you at least do me the favor? You don't have to move off your price. So just give me a little less. I understand the couch is going to cost $500. But what about the couch without the pillows? You keep the pillows. I'll take the couch out of the pillows. Maybe we could go down $100. So Avraham Avinu says, if I could produce 45, could you at least give me this, that you won't destroy them, even if you do punish them to some extent? And Hashem said, you know what? Granted. Hasashchis b'chamishas kol ir, vayomer lo ashchis. I won't destroy Avada. I'll punish them. I'll give them Yisurim. I will give them retribution, but I will not destroy them. Imemsa, if you're able to produce 45 mediocre tzadikim. Then Avram Avinu adds further. Yeah? Then Avram Avinu adds further. He says, okay, so now I see 2 different levels of pricing. Yeah, Avram Avinu says, I see 2 different levels of pricing. Price number 1 is mediocre tzaddikim, God won't touch the city. If you have 50. 45 mediocre tzaddikim, Hashem won't punish the city. Now Avram Avinu says, what if I pray you, over la seichar? What if I give you perfect tzaddikim? Could we then negotiate that I only have to give 40? Again, you don't have to move off your price because I'm working with you, Hashem. You started the price. The price is 50. 50, God will carry the whole city. 45, He just won't destroy. But what about platinum visa? What if I pay, a premium price? I give you 40 tzaddikim. If I give you 40 perfect tzaddikim, maybe then bear the whole city. That's why Avram Avinu says, Vayan Abraham, Vayoisafayid. He added. But he doesn't have to ask, don't get angry with me. Because he's not arguing on Hashem's price. He's working with the price. He's just using the art of negotiation to say, well, if I pay better tzaddikim, he says, I'll carry the whole city for 40 tzaddikim. So right now, we've gotten the price quite clear. What's the price?
40 whole tzaddikim.
Mediocre tzaddikim, God won't touch the city. Mediocre tzaddikim, 50 mediocre, He won't touch. 45 mediocre, He won't destroy. 40 perfect, He won't touch. So says Rav David Cohen, Pashat. No, Ba'avur Arbaim. It doesn't say Emsa. Emsa means Hashem has to look and find, are they tzaddikim? He has to search for them. That was the diuk. The diuk is by 50 and 45. Avram Avinu says, the Rebbe Hashem says, if I finding implies it's something you have to look carefully for. Ba'avur implies that it's overt, it's obvious. That's the diuk of David Cohen. Now let's make a mathematical cheshbon. Let's make a mathematical cheshbon. Okay, take out your calculators. 50 bad, mediocre tzaddikim, God won't touch the cities. 40... Right? He'll carry the cities. 45, He won't destroy. So what's the ratio of how lower how much more do you need so Hashem not to touch it, and how much less is it okay for Hashem not to destroy? 10%. 10%. Mamela, with perfect tzaddikim, if 40 perfect tzaddikim, God won't touch the cities, how many perfect tzaddikim do you need that Hashem won't destroy the cities? 10% less. This is the makar of the 36 tzaddikim. This is the makar in the Torah of 36 tzaddikim. Why? Because we see from the ratio of 50 to 45 that mediocre tzaddikim, you could do a 10% reduction for Hashem not to destroy. That's in the world of mediocre tzaddikim. How about in terms of the world of premium tzaddikim? Well, we know 40, God won't touch the world. But how many does it require that Hashem doesn't destroy the world? 10% reduction, so 40 to 36.
So
this is
perfect tzaddikim only gets a 10% discount. It's pretty poor negotiation.
No. 10% discount is so that Hashem doesn't destroy.
Right.
Right? So 50 to 45 is mediocre, and 40 to 36 is perfect. So far, the Avram Avinu has not touched the negotiating price. 50, Hashem says, I won't touch. So Avram says, okay, fine, so let's make a deal. 45, don't destroy. Hashem said, fine. Then Avram says, okay, 40, perfect, also don't destroy. Hashem said, fine. Comes Avram Avinu, and for the first time, Avram Avinu says, Baruch Shalom, don't get angry at me. Don't get angry at me. But let's move the deal. Let's move the price. We got to go low. I can't pay 50, 45, 40. Is it okay?
Why did he find that out?
Well, Hashem told him.
If he knew that, he couldn't find them. Then to start out at 50 was ridiculous.
He didn't know. He didn't know. He didn't know.
Find out.
Hashem said, we don't have 40. We don't have 50, 45, or 40. So Avram says, Pasuk Lamed, Pasuk Lamed, Vayoimar, Al na yichal adoinoi v'adabeiro ula yimotzen shloshim vayomer lo yasem emtzo shomshom. Avram says, please don't get angry at me, but the initial price ain't going to work. Let's move it down to 30. This is the only time, Rabbi say, now for the first time, Avram Avinu moves the price down. That's why Pasuk Lamed is introduced with, don't get angry at me, Al no yichar ula yimotzen shloshim. Hashem says, I will not act if I find 30, meaning even if mediocre tzadikim, 30 mediocre tzadikim, I won't destroy the city. So now here's the question. Avram Avinu is a mathematician, and Avram Avinu wants to know, well, let's think it for a moment. If God is knocking it down from 50 to 30, is he knocking it down 20? So that means 50 goes to 30, and perfect tzaddikim 40 goes to 20?
No, 27. 10% low.
One second. No, are you going down by 20s?
No, but
50 gets knocked down to 30, so 40 would get knocked down.
Perfect or 30, not perfect.
One second. Listen. If we're knocking it down 20, so then 50 would get knocked down to 30, and the 40 perfect would get knocked down to 20. Or do we working with percentages? So 50 gets knocked down to 30, that means we're keeping it at 3/5. Then 30 would get knocked down to 24. 24. So that's a behind-the-scene negotiation that the Torah doesn't tell us about. And ultimately Hashem said, I'll give you the better price, I'll let you go down to 20. But 20 is still, look in the negotiation of 20. If I'm going to give you 30, then I'm going to bear it. Ula yimatzon sham esrim vayomer, I won't destroy for the esrim. Meaning, I don't have to find. It's like it's a compromise. Because listen carefully. What was Hashem going to do for 40? He was going to carry, right?
40 perfect.
40 perfect he was going to carry. So now it's either 24 to carry or 20 to carry. Perfect tzaddikim.
20 perfect.
So when Hashem says, I'll strike a deal with you, I'll go down to 20, I won't do the ratio, I'll do the numbers. But this time I can't carry, I can only not destroy. So they compromised. Now Avram for the first time says, and for the second time he says, look, even that price is not going to cut it. We got to go down one more time. And therefore in Pasuk Lamed Beis again, Avram Avinu says, Vayomer, Al no yichal adoinoi va'adabra achapam ula yimatzon sham asara. Do me a favor, we got to move down on the price one more time. So basically the Chiddush of Rav David Cohen is a few-fold. Number one is the al yichars are when Avram is changing the price. Number two, im emsa means not perfect tzaddikim. And number three, based on this equation, this would be quite a beautiful makar for the concept of 36 tzaddikim. Because we know 50, God would not touch. 45, he wouldn't destroy. 40, perfect, he wouldn't touch. Then would come out 36, he would not destroy. This would be a makar to the concept of 36 tzaddikim that protect every generation. Mar Rabbi, so let me just tell you something of historical note.
Rabbi,
Yes.
where does it specifically say Hashem says there aren't 40, there aren't 50? I don't see any place in the pasuk.
No, it's not explicit in the pasuk, but
How did Avinu know that?
Rashi says that was.
No, he wouldn't have come down.
Rashi says that did transpire. Hashem told him that your price is not going to work, and Avinu moved on from it. But yeah, that's not explicit in the psukim. In 1939, in the Kovna ghetto, the Slobodka Yeshiva was in the Kovna ghetto, and there were many great Gedolim there. Rav Avram Gruzinski, the Mashgiach of Slobodka Yeshiva, who was the Rabbi of Rav Victor Miller, and he was one of the leaders of the Yidden over there, together with Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, Hashem Yimkom Damam. And also, this is reported by a tzaddik by the name of Mordechai Zuckerman. Mordechai Zuckerman was one of the last remaining Talmidim of the Chafetz Chaim. So when I was learning in Chafetz Chaim, in Yeshiva, so I had this chus to get a bracha from Reb Zuckerman on 2 occasions. And Reb Zuckerman is the one who reporting this information, that the Gemara tells us, what's an example of a apikaris? And the Gemara says an apikaris is somebody who says, Maya Hanilan Rabbanan. What do the rabbis do for us? They don't do anything for us. They're just bench warmers. They sit on the chair and they keep the benches warm. That's all they do for us. And says the Gemara, that is an example of an apikaris. An apikaris? Why are they an apikaris? They believe in God. They believe in the Torah. They don't believe in the psukim and sedaim that the Torah tells us that if there are tzadikim in a city, they save the whole city. Based on this principle, Rav Avram Gruzinski gathered 10 people in the Kovna ghetto that they should dedicate themselves to be 10 tzadikim, and they would preserve and be a protection to Klal Yisrael in general, and especially in that very difficult period. And over here we have an account, if you take a look at number 11, in one of the Ma'amorim of the Rav Avram Gruzinski, the Mashgiach of Slobodka, in a Maimer of Chanukah, he brings the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Apikaris Kagain Man. What is an example of an Apikaris? Amar of Yosef, Kagain Hani da Amri, Maya Hanulan Rabbanan. Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, where do we see that Rabbanim, that Tzadikim, protect? Shenem Rav Nasasi l'chalamakim aboram. Hari Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak may be Raya Misedaim, that if there would be 10 Tzadikim, they would save the whole city. Comes Rav Avram Gruzinski and is medayek that the Eitzah of Asarat Tzadikim is not just like a story that once upon a time Avram Avinu requested that if there are 10 Tzadikim, it should save the city. This is a halacha psuka l'maisa. That if there's ever a time that there's a looming Gzeira on Klal Yisrael, if there would be 10 Tzadikim, these 10 Tzadikim would save the whole city. Because someone who does not admit that Tzadikim could save, they're considered apikaris. And therefore, the Rav Avram Gruzinski utilizes halacha l'maisa. He established a Musar Vad with 10 of his Talmidim. Each one of them had specific obligations to be makabel all of the takanos of this gathering, to be considered asarat tzadikim, and perhaps in that zechus they would save the city. The Vad would meet every Shabbos, where in the factory where they were forced to work every day, and that's where they gathered to dedicate themselves. Now it's amazing, he brings over here, even in the whirlwind and in the dark clouds of the Shoah, Rabbi Avram Gruzinski would constantly teach the people in Yana Shal Yaima, in Yana D'Yaima, based on the halachas that are paskin and Shas. Only a great man like him, who would be able to sort of rise above the tsaras of Gehenna that he was experiencing and clarify what they needed to learn and know about during that time. And amazingly, Rav Avram Gruzinski found 12 areas that required chizuk, and in his opinion were bringing on the Shoah. And he writes, and he told his Talmidim what they were, and he wrote them down. And here's where he felt the people needed chizuk in. Number 1, chizuk in Emunah, Shmir Shabbos, in Taras HaMishpacha, in carefulness from Machalis Asurais, Ribis, Chinuch Habanim, Bittul Torah, Avas Yisrael, Chesed, Histapkus, Bitachon.
What is histapkus?
Being satisfied with one's lot, not having kina, Samech Bechalka, Bitachon, and Eretz Yisrael. But I'm just bringing this in, that the whole episode of Sedaim, why does the Torah teach it to us? It's teaching us a halacha psuka, that if there is a requisite number of tzaddikim in an area, they in fact do protect the city. And based on the diukim that we were able to bring out from these psukim, this might be a very interesting remes to the concept of 36 tzaddikim. Mar Rabbi say, have a great Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.